All right, so we're going to be presenting on educational inequality, specifically how the shortage of teachers, lack of teacher training, and low teacher salary affect educational inequality. My name is Nicole Galiber and my partner,
Sahar, Zahraee.
and we're doing this for the General Intelligence Mentorship Immersion Program. Great, thank you. So for the first part of this, we're going to talk about the teacher shortages. And to start off, we'll start with a definition of shortage. And that's really just the inability to staff vacancies at current wages with individuals qualified to teach in the fields needed. And we know that there's a shortage because of the many indicators, including state-by-state subject area vacancies, the personal testimonials, and data from state and school district officials, as well as declining enrollment in teacher preparation programs. And in addition to that, we also saw the comparison of US schools to schools in other countries such as Europe and Australia in the curriculum. There are several possible causes for this, which include the working conditions that teachers face, the career reputation, the economy, and the increasing student populations. And then this is even worse in areas with high poverty for those for the staffing of those students. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But this graph shows the widening gap, excuse me, between the projected estimated supply of teachers and the projected demand of new hires. So, and then for our second part, in discussion of the lack of training, we first are going to define credentials, which really is just being fully certified, having experience, as well as the definitions based on the federal qualifications and the US Department of Education's equity profiles. So credentials per region, as I mentioned previously, the high poverty schools, those areas are more heavily affected. So the issue is worsened or more acute there, as we'll see with these couple of examples. So this, although the lack of training, also it's like there's a cyclical nature to it. So although teachers with like a stronger credentials are less likely to quit the profession or move to a different school, there's definitely a link between strong credentials and retention. So the link between the two is more powerful in high poverty schools. So there's more likely to be a lack of retention, if that makes sense. And then schools struggle to find and retain high qualified individuals to teach. And this struggle is, like I said, tougher in high poverty schools. So the dwindling applicants and excessive teacher attrition make staffing schools very difficult. And a lot of schools don't even are unable to fill those vacancies. And in the last point there, in terms of the cyclical nature, you can see that, for example, it can be very expensive to continue to fill vacancies and hire new teachers. Teachers, especially in high poverty schools, aren't getting the training that they need, and they don't have the time to do that, to have that training. So, and you can see that here on this slide in this chart, the difference between low poverty and high poverty schools. And in the far right column, it talks about or shows that gap between the two. So that's extremely important. And just to another point to add, that just the field of teaching is not looked at as a highly professionalized discipline, which if it was considered a more prestigious career, we would have better retention, as well as, like we said, the training, pay, and all those other factors that go into it. And then this is another chart that kind of shows the discrepancy, the growing discrepancy in change over time in teacher credentials. So teacher in 2011 and 2012 versus 2015 to 2016. We see that there are even more teachers that aren't fully certified. And this is what the qualifications and credentials that we talked about earlier that make it um, the profession, that make it a professionalized area.
So the third part of our research into educational inequality regarding teachers has to do with teacher salaries. Teachers everywhere are paid little, but low socioeconomic areas offer even less in wages to their teachers, thus attracting uncredentialed and unqualified teachers rather than qualified ones. What exactly are high poverty schools? High poverty schools are where at least 50% or more of the students are enrolled in financial help programs like reduced price lunch. Relative to low poverty schools, the share of inexperienced teachers, which are teachers who have 5 years or less of experience, is 4.8 percentage points higher in high poverty schools. The share of teachers who followed an alternative route into teaching is 5.6 percentage points higher in high poverty schools. And the share of teachers who don't have educational backgrounds in their subject of main assignment is 6.3 percentage points higher in high poverty schools. Here is a chart from the Economic Policy Institute that shows teacher weekly wages since 1979 to 2018 in comparison to non-teacher college graduates. As you can see, college graduates that don't go into the teaching field have been seeing a steady incline in their wages since the 1980s. However, public school teachers have not seen that. And since the late 1990s, they've actually seen a little bit of a decrease in their weekly wages. So what's the problem? To summarize everything that we've discussed about in 4 short bullet points so far, students of lower socioeconomic areas are seeing a lack of qualified teachers that are not content with their jobs. The lack of qualifications affects students' quality of education directly. The fewer number of teachers results in larger classes and less attention to each student, especially those that are struggling. The low wages and poor working conditions create a more stressful environment for teachers who are spending more time grading or doing administrative work or working with parents rather than coming up with lesson plans. And this impact can also be felt by the students whose quality of education is being directly affected. So possible solutions going forward into the future that could start working on improving this issue is by one, improving teacher preparation and reducing costs to enter this profession. This can be done through a number of ways, such as loan forgiveness programs, scholarships, and pathway programs that allow those in the field to further their education and become teachers. Secondly, we need to fix the reputation of the career by building better working conditions for teachers. Becoming a teacher right now doesn't have a very great reputation, and there aren't many people in their undergraduate experience and career that want to go into teaching. And a lot of it is because of this reputation it has for its low wages and its bad working environments. So to fix this reputation, we would be fixing the problem with low credentialed teachers in the field. Thirdly, more funding needs to be provided for high poverty schools so that teachers could be paid better and the socioeconomic status of the area doesn't dissuade qualified teachers from working there. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and we are glad to have provided this presentation, this information for you. Thank you.